So has anyone ever taken any time to develop or to write down or to look at their customer personas, as I would call it? You have. Brilliant. So the reality is here is if you look at the people that walk into your nursery, your garden centre, spend a bit of time just to kind of figure out who they are. And again, it's back down to this Steve Jobs quote again. If we understand who our customer is, we can create content that's going to work and to resonate much better for them. If we have a special offer, don't make a special offer based on what we think would be good. Let's try to make the special offer that we know the customer is going to be physically interested in. So really understanding them. The reality is, just shout out a type of person that would walk into one of your garden centres or nurseries. A mother? Retired gentleman. Okay, so the mother. So what age is the mother? Now I know there's, but let's... 30s. So mother, 30s. Kids? Kids dropped off in school. Okay, very good. Does she work? Does she not work? Part-time. Fantastic. What kind of house does she live in? Like, of course, yeah, but think about a specific group of specific person. Semi-D. Okay, so yeah, and then what kind of questions do they ask you?
Where should I put that plant in the garden?
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay.
Does it need to be planted in the ground or in a pot?
Okay. So again, the reality is that's our mother, the mother in her head. Then we had the man, the retired gentleman. Tell me about him. He's in for a chat and a wander, okay.
He wants to talk about his lawn.
Okay.
Or his fruit.
Yeah.
Sown along through the moss of his lawn.
Yeah. Okay. And does he buy? Sometimes.
Not always.
Yeah. So again, one thing with the personas is very, very good to do is when you start to, I don't believe you should be put in boxes, but when you create 4 to 5 to 6 personas of the main people that visit your nursery, then you can start to nearly, I suppose, start to ask yourself which of these 6 personas are on Facebook or likely to be on Facebook. And if I don't know, let me ask them when they're in. Are you on Facebook? And which of these ones convert into the most sales? So what you don't really want to be in the world of social media is you don't want to be trying to entertain 26 different audiences at the same time, because the chances are you're going to underwhelm each and every one of them. But if you identify, well, hold on, my biggest cash influx comes from mothers working part-time that have dropped the kids off to school, that live in semi-Ds. That's my strategy. That's where my social media effort has to go to. Those are the people I've got to entertain. Those are the people I've got to educate. Those are the people I've got to motivate to come into my nursery or my garden centre. And obviously, where do, say, mums with kids that have dropped off school, before or after they go to the nursery, where do they go? The cafe for what? By themselves? With friends. So the reality is, you get to one of them, you start engaging, they start sharing your content. Now you're into something. So the real purpose of the persona bit, because I didn't buy into this stuff. It annoyed me. I thought, well, I know who my customers are and stuff. I never bothered to do it, but when I actually started to drill down, I could clearly see how I could be far more strategic and focused with my social media efforts.
Sorry, and Greg, can I ask a question?
Of course.
In terms of this creating personas, okay, when you delve into the persona of people who are already visiting your business, can you put a persona together for somebody that you want to attract in?
Absolutely.
And target their content towards them. So
Absolutely.
for example, say the 25 to 35-year-olds, if they're not coming in,
Yeah.
can you create a persona and target your content then to that age group?
Yes, 100%. 100% you can do that. Now the reality is, and I mean this in a very nice way, the reality is you may be better off, and this is where you've got, it's about making decisions, you may be better off sticking to the customer base you have and actually trying to grow it than working off a new one. But if you're in an area where there's a high number of first-time buyers that are in the 25, 35-year-old bracket, very much you could start to target them. But it's just amazing. And the reality is, say we were giving away a really big prize. You know, let's not just make a prize up. Actually getting the prize that someone really is interested in. So again, back to our mothers again, it's a week in Euro Disney with the kids. Like, I know we don't have the budget yet, but you never know. But the reality is, there's no point doing stuff that is uninteresting, that we think is great. There's no point using the language that we would use when we're amongst ourselves in the nursery that the other person that comes into the nursery doesn't understand. So we've got to think like the persona and act like the persona online, and that will be ultimately a big, big key to success. We need to think beyond just the garden here. You know, we need to think about their lifestyles. Are they interested in movies? What other content can we wrap up that will draw them in and actually engage with them?
You probably need to educate yourselves.
Well, you do, absolutely, and you do them all the time. When they come into a garden centre, and they love it. They're coming in, they're asking questions, and they're going home quite excited because they always planted the strawberries over here, and they now know that was a stupid place to plant them. And actually, the reason why they didn't work and grow so well is they needed to be planted over here because they got better sun or whatever. So that education piece is massive. And again, that's where video could play into things really, really nicely. A very simple strategy, and even the likes of Allied Irish Bank took it on board, is write down the 20 questions that you're asked the most this week by people that come into your nursery or your garden centre. What are those questions? Write down the top 20 and now create content that actually answers or solves the problems that the customers had. Now you know you're creating content that is right, particularly if you're building at the right audience. So again, the mums, what are the 10 questions that they asked this week? There's my 10 social media updates for next week. So again, simple questions that we could think of, and again, I would be dead against using generic questions. I would ask you to come up with 10 questions yourself about your targeted customers that you could answer so you understand them a little better. Some questions you're already going to know the answer to, some you won't, and it makes perfect sense to try to dig a little deeper to find those answers. So just take a quick second just to write down a quick customer persona for your business, just so you're thinking about this selfishly for yourself. So it was mentioned before, but even with people, if you don't know everything about them, don't be afraid to ask them. The reality is, rather than send people emails and stuff like that, you're going to physically see them. So it may be just saying, did you watch the game on the weekend? You know, were you away over the summer? You know, all these questions, you don't have to be, I'm building a persona about you. So I've got a list of questions. But it can be just conversations that we have that we actually listen to around their lifestyle and their habits. The reality is, even from our offline activity, if we take the time to build the personas, the people, the staff that we have, and we educate them on our target audience, they probably will be a little bit more caring, a little bit more meaningful, and a little bit more personal when they're dealing with them. So it makes sense, if you're going to create the personas for the online presence, that you kind of share the findings with your staff.